Jin is more than just an idol to Jimmy Fallon. What really happened between them? The spotlight wasn't meant to shift so dramatically that night, but when Jimmy Fallon unexpectedly walked on stage during Jin's Seokjin Tour US concert stop, everything changed. Not just for the fans, not just for Jin, but for Fallon himself. What was initially perceived as a lighthearted cameo has now ignited a wave of speculation, emotion, and controversy. The question must be asked, what is the true relationship between Seokjin and Jimmy Fallon? And why does it seem to go far beyond a typical talk show friendship? The tension did not begin on that stage. It began years earlier. Fallon, one of America's most recognizable talk show hosts, has always maintained a visible admiration for BTS. But his interactions with Jin have stood out sharply, even among ARMY. Subtle gestures, facial expressions during interviews, carefully chosen words, and now a bold appearance during Jin's solo tour. All of it demands deeper analysis. Was this mere entertainment, or was Fallon signaling something personal, something emotional, something that neither party has yet dared to articulate publicly? Jin's Seokjin Tour US was marketed as a deeply personal, emotionally charged solo journey, a concert series meant to showcase not just the voice of BTS's oldest member, but his inner life, his maturity, and his evolution as an artist post-enlistment. Yet when Jimmy Fallon appeared during the final act of the Los Angeles show, unannounced, unbilled, and unusually solemn, the atmosphere shifted. Jin paused. The crowd held its breath. And Fallon, instead of delivering a comedic monologue or gimmick, simply approached Jin and embraced him. The moment lasted less than a minute, but its weight lingers far longer. Why would a veteran US media personality cross oceans just to be there, uninvited, unacknowledged by management, and unafraid of the backlash? Fallon's visit wasn't broadcasted by HYB, nor was it included in any official press release. It was raw, real, and seemingly unscripted. For Jin, a figure so closely guarded by corporate filters, this break in the polished machine has become the subject of intense speculation. Industry insiders, while cautious with their words, have hinted at a long-developing bond between the two. They've always had chemistry on camera, one production staffer noted anonymously. But off-camera, it felt like Fallon saw something in Jin that went beyond stardom. It was admiration, but also protection. This raises further questions. Protection from what? And why now? The emotional weight of the Seokjin tour cannot be understated. Jin, returning from his military service, entered a BTS landscape altered by time, distance, and silence. Rumors about internal dissonance within the group have not subsided. Jin's performances have been markedly introspective, often ending in tears, with fans sensing something unspoken behind each note. So when Fallon appeared, not as a host, but as a friend, the narrative changed. It wasn't about fame anymore. It was about connection. Point one cannot ignore the timing. Fallon's sudden presence coincides with swirling doubts about BTS's current state, with speculations that not all members are aligned on the group's future direction. And among them, Jin has remained the most enigmatic, devoted yet distant, present but emotionally unavailable. His choice to push forward with a solo tour so soon after military discharge surprised many. But the emotional turbulence now seen on stage suggests this was never just about music. Fans who witnessed the LA moment live have shared haunting descriptions. Jin, visibly trembling, lowered his microphone after Fallon's appearance. His voice cracked. He didn't speak for over 30 seconds. And then he muttered words that ARMY have been dissecting ever since. "I didn't think you'd really come." What did he mean? Was it a promise? A reunion? Or a desperate plea finally answered? Fallon himself has not addressed the event publicly. His social media remains silent, his show untouched by commentary. That silence is deafening. For someone who trades in content, jokes, and virality, this absence of explanation feels deliberate. Could it be that Fallon is respecting something fragile? Or is he hiding from something deeper, perhaps a truth too complicated for public consumption? Adding another layer to the enigma, footage from backstage, briefly leaked and then deleted, shows Fallon and Jin in a private embrace. Not staged, not for camera. Just two people clinging, as if trying to hold together a world slipping apart. Staff members around them averted their eyes. No words were exchanged, but the rawness of that moment has become a viral flashpoint in fan discourse. Was it farewell? Forgiveness? Or was it a sign of something beginning, not ending? Critics argue that fans are reading too much into the encounter. That Fallon is simply a supporter, that Jin is simply grateful, and that the rest is imagination. But this perspective fails to address the deliberate emotional coding embedded in everything that night. The dimmed lights, the abrupt song change after Fallon's exit, and Jin's tearful final bow, which broke protocol by extending well past the usual exit. Many have also noticed a stark shift in Jin's demeanor after that show. The following concert dates were less vibrant, his speeches shorter, his interactions subdued. Some suggest exhaustion. Others sense emotional aftermath. Whatever the cause, Fallon's visit has left a mark, not just on Jin, but on the entire narrative surrounding the Seokjin tour, and still, the question hangs unanswered. Why Jin? Of all the global idols Fallon could show up for, why him? Why now? Why in this way? Theories range from personal bonds forged over years of interviews to more intimate, private exchanges shielded from the public. What's certain is that Fallon's action defied protocol, hierarchy, and expectation. It wasn't for publicity. It wasn't for television. It was for Jin HYB, as expected, has offered no comment. Their silence, too, is notable. But silence has a voice. And in this case, it speaks volumes.
No denials, no explanations.
Just an unresolved tension lingering between two worlds, K-pop's tightly controlled ecosystem, and the unpredictable reality of human connection. What does this mean for Jin going forward? For BTS? For the image the industry has so carefully crafted around its idols? If Fallon's gesture was indeed rooted in something personal, something emotional, then Jin's place in this narrative is no longer as a performer alone. He becomes a subject, a symbol of vulnerability, isolation, and perhaps of love unspoken. In the end, maybe the most unsettling part of this story is that we may never know the full truth. Maybe we're not meant to, but the signs, the moments, and the emotional ripples cannot be ignored. Jimmy Fallon didn't just visit a concert. He crossed into a world that thrives on illusion and pierced its veil. And in doing so, he left behind one haunting, unanswerable question. What really happened between Jin and Jimmy Fallon? And what does it mean for everything we thought we knew about both of them? However, as gripping and emotionally charged as the story may seem, none of the above actually happened. There was no unannounced appearance by Jimmy Fallon at Jin's Seokjin Tour US concert. There was no secret backstage moment, no prolonged emotional embrace, and certainly no veiled confessions or dramatic silences that left fans frozen in disbelief. The entire narrative, down to the carefully constructed speculation, rumors, and emotional breakdown, is entirely fabricated. This story was designed to mirror the tone, structure, and emotional cadence of real entertainment journalism. Its purpose? To demonstrate just how easily a false narrative can take root when emotional cues, fan sentiment, and public figures are involved. The digital era has made it alarmingly easy for speculation to blur into fact, especially when built on pre-existing admiration between celebrities or fueled by fan theories that go viral without scrutiny. Jin and Jimmy Fallon do indeed share a warm, public friendship based on past interviews and mutual respect. But there is no evidence of a personal connection that exceeds professional rapport. Fallon has not attended Jin's solo concerts unannounced, and there are no credible sources indicating any private interactions during the Seokjin Tour US series. This kind of fabricated reporting, however well-written or emotionally compelling, raises urgent questions about media literacy, fan culture, and the growing tendency to conflate entertainment with personal truths. When fiction masquerades as truth, It erodes the public's ability to distinguish between reality and illusion, especially in the K-pop industry, where narrative control is both powerful and perilous. Let this serve as a critical reminder. Not every emotionally moving headline is rooted in reality. And while fan passion should be celebrated, it must also be grounded in discernment. In this case, the story of Jimmy Fallon and Jin is not a revelation, it's a construction. One that should be read not as news, but as a cautionary tale about the seductive power of imagination in a media ecosystem hungry for sensation.